Good evening. Welcome to tonight's episode of Aging with Attitude. My name is Phil Koch. I'm your host for this evening's episode. This is Channel 21, servicing the greater Charlotte metro market. And tonight we have Lori Eberly.
That's correct.
She's the owner of Comfort Keepers and has been a long-time participant in the senior care industry for many, many years. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell us about, I know you're the owner of Comfort Keepers.
Correct.
Tell the viewers, I know,
Okay.
what Comfort Keepers is and what you do.
Comfort Keepers is actually one of the largest providers of in-home senior care in the world right now. We were one of the first franchised networks that provided in-home senior care. And what I mean by that is that we provide caregivers that go into the home and help with companionship, personal care, errands, transportation, recovering from an illness or an injury, things along that line.
Right. So what's the difference between that and skilled nursing?
Absolutely. So that's a common question. Skilled nursing is when you may have just gotten out of the hospital and you have a nurse or a physical therapist or an occupational therapist coming to your home a few hours a week just for a visit to check your vitals, do an assessment, do some exercises, some rehabilitation, but then they leave.
Right.
And then you're often left to fend to your own devices on your other things like getting your meals prepared or getting help with your laundry, and there's no one there to help you with those things. So that's where Comfort Keepers comes into play to be able to provide that supplemental service to help those people.
Or oftentimes at end-of-life care, because people
Absolutely.
assume about hospice, which...
Yep,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because hospice care, a lot of people assume that when hospice comes in, it's 24/7, and
Right.
it's not.
It's not. It's a common misconception. Everybody seems to think that their Medicare home health benefit is going to provide them with this 24-hour-a-day benefit to have someone in their home helping them, and that's simply not the case. It's often very few, very limited hours. You have to have a doctor's order. There has to be a specific diagnosis that's causing that need, whereas with a service like Comfort Keepers, it's completely at your discretion what
Right.
types of services you get and on what schedule.
And we're not going to go into the details, but in generic, what type of payment sources are there other than private?
Sure.
Yeah.
A lot of people do pay for it out of pocket, but naturally there are many people that can't afford that. So there are resources such as if you are a veteran or the surviving spouse of a veteran, there are payment systems through the VA that will help cover it. There is a great program called the PACE program that is fairly new but very popular. And if you qualify for PACE, PACE will help with paying for in-home care services.
Mm-hmm.
Long-term care insurance is another very popular one right now. In the 80s, a lot of people bought long-term care insurance policies, and they're starting to really kick in now to cover this type of service. We work with Department of Social Services block grants. They have funding available. There's various grants and vouchers available. We often tell people, don't worry about how you're going to pay for it. Call us and let us walk you through the different resources, because there are a lot more resources than people realize to be able to help you pay for this type of service.
Yeah. And, you go back to that issue of long-term care insurance. I'm amazed at how many people have the plan of long-term care insurance, which is very specific,
Right.
and don't know what it pays for, which includes home care.
Absolutely. We do so much education on long-term care insurance policies. They have it. They have no idea what it means. One thing that we commonly see is most long-term care insurance policies have an elimination period where for the first 60 or 90 days, you do still have to pay for the services out of pocket. And the people who own those policies had no idea, or they didn't understand what that meant. So there's just so much education that we provide to people who have those policies to make sure they know how to use it and what the requirements are to qualify.
And oftentimes, as you know, an individual that has a long-term care policy that can pay for home care and other long-term care needs, once they start utilizing the policy, you don't have to pay the
You
premiums.
stop the premium, that's correct.
Which is like a double win.
I know. There's so much we can teach people.
And can you also bill directly these long-term care companies?
Yes, we actually do. We bill the insurance companies directly through our agency, so that we take that burden off of our clients. They don't have to worry about filing any type of insurance. We just do that for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's common, and that's a big benefit.
Absolutely.
For those that don't really completely understand or want to keep up with those type of policies.
And then the payments just come directly to us. The family doesn't have to worry about receiving that money and then paying the agency. It comes straight to us.
Right. Oh, it's powerful.
Yep.
Okay, so this is an important year for Comfort Keepers. Why don't you tell us why?
Yeah. So Comfort Keepers was actually founded in 1998, which coincidentally was the year I graduated from college. It was founded in the Dayton, Ohio area by a skilled home health nurse, which we were just speaking about skilled home health. Chris Butler was her name. She was working as a skilled home health nurse doing visits. And as she was going out making her visits, she was finding that a lot of her patients needed additional assistance. They needed somebody to go to the grocery store for them, or they needed somebody to take them to their hair appointment. And as a skilled visit nurse, you're not able to do that. You're very structured to your time. You have a very short period of time to be there. You have a task to do, and then you have to leave. So she kept seeing this trend and felt that there was a very large unmet need to have a supplemental service, a caregiving service that could come in and help people with these basic activities of daily living, helping with the laundry, helping to fix a healthy meal, going to that very important weekly hair appointment. I know that's not as important to you, but to these ladies, this is very important.
Yes.
So she started the concept of Comfort Keepers to be able to provide that service in the Dayton, Ohio area. And very quickly, within a year, I believe, she decided to franchise that concept and go national with it. Yeah. And I was one of the early adapters and got into that franchise network about 3 years later.
What number were you? Just curious.
I was number 185.
Wow.
Yeah.
3 years later?
Yeah. Well, I think they started at 100 though, so I think technically I was the 85th one.
I was going to say.
They didn't start at 0. So now this year, since we started in 1998, this is 2018. So this is our 20-year anniversary since the beginning of the Comfort Keepers franchise network. Yeah. And now we are international in Australia, Singapore, the UK, Ireland. We're popping up everywhere. So throughout this year, we're having a lot of open houses and a lot of great publicity to celebrate the fact that 20 years later, we're still going strong. Still, I believe we're number 2 nationally for franchised home care networks and continuing to grow year after year. It's a very it's a growing market, as you know.
Yes, especially in this market.
Yes.
Where grandmas and grandpas want to come see their grandchildren. Right?
North Carolina is a hot market for seniors to relocate to.
Well, it's good it's an important topic that people don't always understand.
Right.
So it's good to have good providers come in and discuss it.
Right.
And you've been servicing Charlotte market for how long?
Since March of 2001. Mm-hmm. So I opened the first Comfort Keepers in Charlotte in 2001, which was about 17 years ago. And my reason for getting into this was, at the time, I was doing sales and marketing for an assisted living company in the area, which at that time, assisted living was a fairly new concept. That was just getting off the ground, and assisted living was popping up on every corner. My struggle was that what I was seeing was a lot of the families I was working with, a lot of the seniors that were moving into our community were still incredibly independent. Some of them were still driving. They had their pets with them. The families just didn't know what to do because their loved one wasn't eating right or wasn't taking their medications at the right time. Very basic, simple needs that I just didn't see. Why does this person have to move out of their home and into a community just to have those needs met? And I worked in assisted living for about 2 years, and during that time was when I started thinking, there has to be a better way. There has to be a way to help these people so that they don't have to make that move, at least not so early. Maybe we can prevent it. Maybe we can just delay it a little longer. And I started doing some research, and I was going to start my own concept of in-home care. The internet was fairly new back then as well. I started doing some internet searches, and that's when I came across the concept of a franchised home care company. And back then, there were really only about 3 options to choose from. And I decided to go with Comfort Keepers, and ended up, over the course of the last 17 years, have purchased 3 more Comfort Keepers territories. So I do have 4 currently.
And what's that geographically? Where's that encompass?
We cover from Charlotte all the way north to, north and west to Hickory, and as far up to Thomasville. and then over to the Davidson County, Stanley County area.
Right.
Here in Charlotte, there are 3 locations. We have a location over in the East Charlotte area near Ballantyne. I have an office in the University area and an office in the Lake Norman area. So we've got Charlotte pretty covered geographically.
Yes. So what happened 2 years ago that you...
Yeah. So 2 years ago was my franchise's 15-year anniversary, not to be confused with our national 20-year anniversary. So when it was our 15-year anniversary, I wanted to do something just to give back. I've been very blessed with this organization. It has done very well for me, have met so many amazing partners in the community, but I wanted to be able to give back in some way. So I came up with the concept of a senior's wish. And it's very similar to the Make-A-Wish Foundation that grants wishes to children, but I wanted to do something for the senior population. The only criteria was that the senior had to live in our service area here in North Carolina, had to be over the age of 65, and unable to meet that need on their own. So I was a little bit nervous because I was funding these wishes myself, and I wasn't really sure what type of extravagant wishes I might receive. But I was very humbled and surprised that the wishes were so basic and quite often need-based. We got a lot of wishes for wheelchair ramps to be constructed so that people could get in and out of their homes. I had a wish to replace some rotted flooring in somebody's trailer because it wasn't safe for them to get around in their wheelchair any longer. But even one of my favorites was a lady needed a new lift chair. She had arthritic knees and it was hard for her to get in and out of her lift chair. And Cannon Pharmacy actually donated the lift chair for that wish. And it just so happened that when Cannon Pharmacy delivered that lift chair, her Meals on Wheels were being delivered at the same time, but Santa Claus was delivering the Meals on Wheels. Mm-hmm. So Santa Claus essentially brought her lift chair. Of course, it was at Christmas time. And it was great. We did a Facebook Live video stream of that. It was wonderful. But on the people who requested things that weren't need-based, they were still very, very simple. I had a gentleman who wanted to go hear the Gaither Vocal Band perform. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Gaither Vocal Band, but I have a 96-year-old grandmother who loves the Gaither Vocal Band, so I was very familiar with who that was. They were going to be performing in Greensboro, so we sent him to Greensboro to hear the band. I reached out to the band's PR and got him to be able to go backstage and meet them and have a meet and greet. But it was such a simple thing to do.
Yeah.
My favorite one so far, though, has been a gentleman in his early 70s with Parkinson's disease. And he is in an assisted living community. He has no family, but because of his Parkinson's, he's had no choice but to move to the assisted living. And he really struggles with it because he is one of the youngest men in the assisted living. And he doesn't feel like he has a lot in common with them. He can't get out anymore. Mentally, he's as sharp as a tack, but physically, he just can't do the things that he used to be able to do. And his senior wish was to go to Mount Airy and go to Mayberry, and he wanted to have a pork chop sandwich at the Snappy Lunch. And when I got that wish, I had no idea what any of that meant because I was not an Andy Griffith child. I didn't grow up watching Andy Griffith. But I started doing some research, and it turned out we were right smack in the middle of Mayberry Days time frame in the summer. So myself and one of our great caregivers loaded up the car and took him to Mayberry. And we spent the entire day at Mayberry Days. We went and had the pork chop sandwich at the Snappy Lunch, went to the museum. We were there. I mean, we shut the place down. We were there all day. And it meant so much to him. I mean, he's still in contact. He's thinking of he wants to go to the train station in Spencer, and he's got all kinds of things he wants to do. That day just had such an impact on him because he just doesn't get out and enjoy those things anymore. So when I started this, like I said, I had no idea what to expect, but it's been such a rewarding thing for me. It was supposed to be a reward for these seniors, and it's turned out to be rewarding for me because the requests are so simple and so easy to make those wishes come true. No
Maseratis.
No, the most extravagant request we had, and I was not able to grant this one. I wish I could have, but it was a request to go to Alaska.
Oh, yeah.
And that one would have been tough. Not only financially would it have been tough, but just physically. That's a long trip for a senior to take. And I just really wasn't sure how to pull that one off. So, but that's the most extravagant one. A lot of requests to go to the beach too. A lot of people want to just go stick their toes in the sand and visit the beach. So we still have wishes to get through, but it's just a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it.
I remember seeing it on TV recently where there was a woman in an ambulance and they were being transported, I think it was back to the hospital, and the woman was passing. And I forget what state it was. It was on the coast. And she said, "Would you mind terribly? I don't think I'm going to get to see the coast again. Would you mind stopping and bring me down to the beach?"
Right.
And they did. And they actually brought the ambulance down to the coast, took her out in a gurney, and brought her down so she could watch.
That's awesome.
The beach, and you're like, wow.
It's so simple. It's just simple little things that we take for granted when we're younger and still able to just go and do it on our own anytime.
Yeah.
It's just, it really makes you start thinking in a different way.
It does.
So this year, actually, because it's the 20th anniversary for the National Comfort Keepers, they took that concept and now they are doing a 20 Wishes for 20 years, and they are doing basically a national seniors wish campaign.
Wow, that's an honor for you.
Yeah, so they are actually going to honor wishes not only for caregivers who have worked within our system, but clients who have been serviced by our system, and pick 20 people to receive a national wish, which will obviously, I would guess, be on a much grander scale than me.
Well, maybe the Alaska trip's back in the
I know,
fall.
that's exactly what I was thinking. That person might get to go to Alaska after all.
We had a client years ago, we can share these stories, excuse me, and we were caring for his wife, but they were both in the early 90s, and they had lived in Indian Land, South Carolina, for their whole lives. And there's a place called the Peach Stand, which is in Fort Mill. And in that particular location, they have ice cream. They serve ice cream.
Yeah.
It's a nice little place. And he was talking about, and my boys, who are now much older, this is about 8-9 years ago, were smaller, and they got to meet him. And sometimes I'd take them over there because they were right near our house, just coincidentally. So he said something about, he said, where are you going from here? And we said, we're going to run over to the Peach Stand and get some ice cream. So he goes, gosh, I haven't been there in 9 years. So we said, let's go.
Right.
So we brought him. And that was the first of about 9 times we brought that gentleman to get ice cream. And it wasn't just the ice cream. It was like going to Mayberry. It was the experience of going there and that memory, which it brings back memories and it gives them new memories,
right,
which is much more powerful than the taste of an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my mother actually works as a caregiver for a home care agency in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And the stories that she tells, she has a lady that she works with that she cares for that had never been to Burger King. And so they went to Burger King one evening and got a Whopper. And that was, 2 months ago. And now every time my mom goes there, my mom's there 5 nights a week. This lady wants to go to Burger King like every day of the week. She thinks Burger King is the best burger she's ever had. And it's just so amazing that at 90 years old, you're having Burger King for the first time. So it's Burger King one night or an ice cream from McDonald's the next night. But it's the simple things in life, I'm telling you.
We had a client who liked Andy Griffith, the show, hence your trip.
Right.
And they had to watch Andy Griffith every waking moment that they were awake. She had advanced dementia. And it was fine, and it was kind of interesting to me because I love Andy Griffith.
Right.
So I was like, oh, that's really cool. Do you have all the episodes? Oh, yeah, we've got all the episodes. I said, well, that's great. That's a powerful thing, It was up until some of the caregivers started to complain. They said, Mr. Koch, I know every episode of Andy Griffith the rest of my life. I don't know if I'll ever want to watch another Andy Griffith episode. But it was powerful to her, and it brought back memories,
right,
which, as you know, memories trigger a time in their lives that makes them happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very powerful.
Yeah.
What a great service.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, my hope is that at this time, a Seniors Wish it's not a nonprofit. I have not taken that step. It's just something I've been funding on my own. We've done it through the partnership of other, like I said, Cannon Pharmacy helped with providing medical equipment like the lift chair. The North Carolina Baptist Aging Ministries has been huge. They've been a huge partner for us because with the people who wanted ramps or any type of construction done, the Aging Ministries uses the volunteers from throughout the Baptist churches to do the construction. So without them, I wouldn't have been able to do a lot of these things.
Yeah.
So my goal is to make this a nonprofit foundation so that we can accept donations at some point and be able to grant wishes on a broader scale.
Yeah.
But so far, I haven't needed to go that route, but it is something that I would like to really expound upon and grow in the future because I see that there's a huge need.
Oh, there is a huge need. As you say, there's people that are out there that, family dynamics can change from families to families. Sometimes family members live in California and they can't get here very often.
Right.
Sometimes they all live locally, but there's internal squabbles and they don't get to see their parents as often, or there's one daughter that's more in touch with their care than other family members or son, or vice versa. And then there's some people, as you've mentioned already, that they have nobody.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah. So you've been doing this a long time. What's the longest client you've ever had?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because we've had a lot. We're going on 17 years, and I know that we have quite a few that we still have today that we've had for more than 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Easily.
Wow.
I don't have any that I've still had for 17 years. But the other thing that's been interesting is because it's been so long, I have actually had caregivers who have become clients. Because
really?
I always have tended to hire an older, more mature caregiving workforce.
Yeah.
So a lot of my caregivers were in their 60s, some even in their 70s when we hired them 17 years ago. So now here we are, fast forward, now they're needing our services. So that's a neat thing too, is to keep it in the family, and now you're able to be on the other side providing care to somebody who was an employee or a caregiver for your company for as long as they were.
Most people would think they're probably more critical of the caregivers. They're probably more relaxed about it, aren't
they are. Yeah. They really are appreciative of what they're getting.
Yeah.
They've been there. They've walked in their shoes.
Yeah, like my mother, she's a nurse, and you'd think that nurses are harder on other nurses. It's the complete opposite.
Yeah. I think I would be a hard client, though, because I've been through it. I think I'd be tough.
Well, that's important. So how many people have you serviced through this program over the years?
Through the Seniors Wish or through Comfort Keepers?
Seniors Wish.
It's not been overwhelming. I want to say maybe about 10 total wishes so far.
Okay.
And that's part of why we want to get the word out. We want people to nominate seniors for these wishes. It's hard. It's hard to get the word out in the community. We've done press releases and things in the paper, but sometimes people just don't take the time to fill out the application, or they put it aside, like they plan to get to it, but they forget.
Right.
So we want people to nominate seniors for this. There's a website. It's called seniorswish.com. Mm-hmm. You can go to that website and fill out the application. It just asks for basic information, like why can't this person fulfill the wish on their own? What is the wish? What are some special things about this person that we should know? If you don't have access to the internet, you can call and have an application mailed to you.
Okay.
To get the application mailed to you, just call 704-630-0370, and someone at my office can mail that application out to you.
One more time.
704-630-0370.
Okay.
And the online application, there's also an option. You can either do it online or you can print it and handwrite it and mail it in. And the address is on the application. And we do take applications each year, typically through August 30th. That's typically our cutoff. Sometimes we'll extend it a little bit longer. And then we grant the wishes in that fourth quarter of the year. So generally September, October, November, sometimes into December is when we're usually granting the wishes.
Okay. And is it usually one per season? Sorry.
No, it's not one per season. It's really just based on what we can pull together in terms of resources. We want to make as many of them come true as possible. So there is not just one person that gets chosen. Most years there aren't that many applications, so we've been able to grant most that have come in, except Alaska.
Right.
So yeah, if you get your application in, and there's a good chance that we'll be able to make it happen.
How old, the senior has to be a certain age?
65 or older, and they have to live in Mecklenburg or any of the surrounding Mecklenburg County areas.
Okay. And last year, who was the winner and what did they do?
Last year, there were a couple last year.
Really? Okay.
One we did last year was a lady, the one that I mentioned earlier, the floors of her trailer were rotted.
Right. Okay.
So her floors got replaced. I think she got new carpet. Also had a wheelchair ramp constructed on her home. Last year was also when I did the trip to Mayberry. So that was in September of last year, I believe. We have not done one yet this year because we're going into that season this year.
It's a powerful thing. It really is. We had a resident or a client one time, and she said, I'd never been to Old Salem. She called up, and she had a caregiver at the time, and she said, would it be so horrible if we could go up one day to Old Salem? My family don't want to take me.
Right.
And they went, and it was, like you say, I don't know who had a better time.
Exactly.
The caregiver or the client.
That's how I felt after Mayberry. I'm like, I mean, that pork chop sandwich was pretty amazing. We did, the first year that we did this, this one really tugged at my heartstrings. The first year that we did this, it was another wheelchair ramp. It was a family of three, a husband and wife. The wife was actually dying of cancer. The husband had some debilitation that he couldn't get out of the home without a wheelchair ramp. And they had a son in the home, and I believe the son also had Parkinson's disease. So the request was to have this wheelchair ramp so that they could get in and out of the house easily. The wheelchair ramp was constructed during the Thanksgiving time period. And as we were constructing that ramp, the wife was actually in the home actively dying.
Wow.
And she said the wheelchair ramp was constructed, and I believe she passed away 2 days later.
Yeah.
And she said, the fact that I was able to see this happen and know that as I'm about to pass, my son and my husband are going to be taken care of, and that they're going to be able to get out and get to their appointments, that gives me so much peace. And I'm good. Like I know that I'm good to move on because they've been taken care of. So you
as little as something as that.
Yep. The timing was
peace during that transition of life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful.
Yep. You and I get to see some amazing stories in our work that we do.
We should write a book together.
I've a book, a TV show, something. People wouldn't believe it.
Well, I want to thank you.
I
want to thank you for sharing the program, which is obviously a big benefit to the seniors in the area and their families. And I hope more people take advantage of it, certainly.
Yeah, we do too.
And I'd like to thank Lori, in particular with Comfort Keepers, the owner of 17 years.
17 years.
For being on the show. I'd like to thank all of our viewers tonight for joining in to watching with Aging with Attitude, Channel 21, the Greater Charlotte Metro Market. Come again and join us, please.